So folks say, in early stories, that one of the Aesir, the one who hight Heimdall, went his way faring forth along a certain sea strand, where he came upon a farmstead and called himself Rig. This poem is about that story. They say it was in early yore that the strong and cunning ancient Oss Rig went striding boldly and briskly down green roadways. He walked along the middest road. He came to a house with a door in the gate. He betook himself inside. There was a fire on the floor. A grey-haired couple sat there at the hearth. Oi, great-grandpa, and Edda, great-grandma, antiquely dressed. Rig knew how to speak them sooth. He settled himself on the middest part of the house bench, and the couple of the household sat on his either side. Then Edda took up a lumpy loaf, heavy, thick, and thrung with seeds. She put more of it on the middest plate, and she set a bowl of broth on the table. Boiled calf was the choicest treat. Rig knew how to speak them sooth. He rose up thence, meaning to sleep. He lay himself down on the middest part of the bed, and the couple of the household lay on his either side. He kept this up with them for 3 nights, then left along the middest road. Then 9 months went by. Edda had a baby. They sprinkled him with water, wrapped him in black linen, and called him Thrall. He began to grow, and sure enough to thrive. The skin on his hands was wrinkled, his knuckles were gnarled, his fingers fat, his face foul, his back bent, his heels hanging. He soon began to test his strength, binding bast cords, bearing burdens, hauling firewood home the livelong day. There came to the yard a wanderess. Her soles were muddy, her arms sunburnt, her nose downbent. She was named Thew. She settled herself on the middest part of the house bench. The son of the house sat beside her. They spoke and they rooned, they readied the bed, Thrall, Thew, and a day's thrusting. They had children, they lived and they loved. Methinks that they hight Rame and Fusner, Clums and Clegg, Chevisser, Foulner, Drum, Duffled, Dreg, and Hazy, Lout and Layabout. They laid fences, tathed fields, tended to swine, guarded goats, dug up dirt. Their daughters were Drummy and Crummy, Lumpy Legs and Birdbeak, Hissy and Ombite, Oaken Tassel, Tatterhap, and Birdbone. Thence is come the line of thralls. Rig walked along straight roads. He came to a hall whose door was shut. He betook himself inside. There was a fire on the floor. A couple sat there, busy with their work. The man was cutting beams into rafters. His beard was kempt, as were his bangs. His shirt was close-fitting. There was a chest on the floor. The woman sat stooped over her distaff, her arms outstretched, stitching cloths into clothes. A snood was on her head, a smock on her breast, a kerchief on her neck, dress-pins on her shoulders. Afi, Grandpa, and Amma, Grandma, owned the house. Rig knew how to speak them sooth. He settled himself on the middest part of the house bench, and the couple of the household sat on his either side. Then Amma took up. Boiled calf was the choicest treat. Rig knew how to speak them sooth. He rose up from the dinner table, meaning to sleep. He lay himself down on the middest part of the bed, and the couple of the household lay on his either side. He kept this up with them for 3 nights. Then 9 months went by. Amma had a baby. They sprinkled him with water. They called him Carl. The woman swaddled him with loose-fitting cloths. Red and ruddy, his eyes twinkled. He began to grow, and sure enough to thrive. He learned to tame oxen, to wield the ard, to betimber houses and build barns, to make carts and drive the plough. Then they brought home a bride bedecked with keys in a goatskin kirtle who was wedded to Carl. Snore, daughter-in-law, she hight, beneath her veil. The couple shared their lives, their rings, and their blankets. They made a home for themselves. They had children. They lived and they loved. They hight Hal and Drang, Hathel, Thane, and Smith, Broad, Band, Bundlebeard, Bor, and Buddy, Brantbeard, and Seg. Still more went by other names: Snout, Bride, Swan, Sorer, Spark, Fleet, Sprund and Wife, Fem, Ristel. Thence is come the line of Carls. Thence went Rig along the straight roads. He came to a longhouse. The doorway faced south. The door was sunken in. A knob was on the door frame. Then he went in. The floor was straw-strewn. A couple sat, gazing into each other's eyes. Father, and mother, playing handsies. The housegroom sat winding a string and fletching arrows for an almond bow, while the housequeen watched him work, smoothing out loose cloths, pleating sleeves. She pressed creases. A pewter king-brooch was on her breast. Her headscarf was long-hanging, her cirque bluish. Her brow was brighter, her breast lighter, her neck whiter and cleaner than fresh snow. Rig knew how to speak them sooth. He settled himself on the middest part of the house-bench, and the couple of the household sat on his either side. Then Mothir took out a special tablecloth of white linen and put it on the table. She then took up a lean loaf of white wheat and put it on the tablecloth. She set a silver-coated scuttle down on the table, full of bacon and roast fowl. There was wine in a jug, and finely wrought chalices. They drank and chatted as the day drew to a close. Rig knew how to speak them sooth. He got up and readied the bed. He kept this up with them for 3 nights, then he left along the middest road. Then 9 months went by. Mothir had a boy. They wrapped him in silk, sprinkled him with water, and called him Earl. His hair was pale, his cheeks bright, his eyes were piercing like a baby dragon's. Earl grew up in that house. He learned to use the linden shield, to wind string and fletch arrows for the almond bow, to fling the javelin, to swing the spear, to ride horses, to command hounds, to brandish a sword, to swim across the sound. Rig came there, a traveller from beyond the grove. Rig the walker kent the runes. He gave him his own Haiti and called him his son. Then he bade him come into his earthship and elden dwelling. He rode off thence towards Mirkwood, across hoary fells, until he came to a hall. He began to swing the spear shaft. He put the linden shields to use. He made the horse to leap, and he brandished the sword. He took to waging war. He took to reddening the fields. He took to felling the slain, fighting over land. He presided alone over 18 farmsteads. He took to dealing out his wealth, giving freely to all of his matham and treasure, and of slim-ribbed horses. Rings flowed from him. He clove shield bosses asunder. His messengers drove down wet roads. They came to a hall where dwelt a hairseer. He had a slender-fingered daughter, fair and wise, she hight Erna. They begged her hand and drove her home. She was wedded to Earl. She wore the bridal veil. They lived together and loved each other. They eked out a family and enjoyed old age together. Boy was the eldest, and Bairn next. Youth and Athel, Erf, Mug, Neath and Neathyoung. They learned to play, son and swain, swimming and board games. Kund hight yet another. Kin was the youngest. Earl's children grew up there. They tamed horses, rounded shield rims. They shaved spear shafts, swung ash spears. But Kin the young knew the runes, law runes and life runes. He knew how to keep the people safe, how to still blades, to calm the sea. He learned the chirping of the birds, how to still fires, how to quiet the mind, to soothe sorrows. He had the strength and energy of 8 men. He discerned the runes with the Earl Rig. He used cunning and better understood. Then he came into his inheritance. What he got was to call himself Rig and to know the runes. Kin the young rode through woods and shaws. He swung his club. He charmed the birds. Then quoth a crow, sitting on a branch, "Why choosest thou, Kin the young, to charm the birds? Hathels are supposed to ride horses, to brandish swords and fell soldiers. Dan and Danup owned stately halls, greater estates than what thou hast. They well knew how to ride the keel, how to handle a sword, to reeve wounds.